Hi, my name is Nicholas. Welcome to this week's Yin practice. For props for today, a bolster, soft block, and strap will come in handy, and then anything else you like to practice with if you want to have a blanket or a couple hard blocks or something like that. I'll invite you to get started on the back. We'll start off in a chest opener. So if you want to use your bolster, you can place that lengthwise, maybe halfway up the mat. And then we're going to come to sit in front of it and rest the spine down onto the prop. So if you are working with a prop that's particularly plump, you might use your soft block at the end of it, just so that it's a little less steep for the low back. You can also angle it a little differently. So if you want to put something at the far end so that it's less inclined, then that might be more comfortable as well. So feel free to play around. As you're ready, you can lower yourself down and check in to see what this feels like. If you need to make any adjustments, then go for it. And see what expression the legs want to be in. I'm going to take extended legs, but you could also do butterfly or stay with cross-legged or something else. And check in to see where the arms would be most comfortable. Maybe out to the sides or somewhere on the body. Feeling the support of your props and of the mat. See if there's anything that's holding here that doesn't have to be. Maybe you can start to soften. And if things feel fidgety as well, feel free to find a little movement and then come to find your stillness as you feel ready. Perhaps closing down the eyes, bringing your attention to the flow of your breath, noticing what's going on in the body here. Check in here and see if you'd benefit from staying here for a little while longer or as long as you need. And only when you feel ready to move, you can roll down to one side just so that you can push your props out of the way, and we'll come back to lying down on the back. You might pause here for a moment or two, let the spine readjust. And then when you feel ready to, you can scoot the hips over towards the left end of the mat, and then take your feet towards the bottom right. You can use the arms as well, take them towards the top right until you're in a crescent moon shape. Notice if the left hip wants to lift up. See if you can keep it nice and grounded, and that will target that stretch through the whole left side of the body. You could cross left ankle, left wrist over right if you want a little more intensity. You can also angle the head a little bit differently here. If it feels better to have bent elbows, maybe catching opposite elbow, then go for that instead. And when you feel ready to move, you can gently uncross the legs and the arms, and scoot the hips back to midline, and then you can take them over to the left-hand side of the mat. And feet towards, or to the right side, feet towards the bottom left, arms towards the top left, keeping that right side nice and grounded. This side may feel a little differently, so if you need to adjust your angles or what you're crossing, then that's fine too. Look for a similar feeling through that right side that you found on the left. And then settle in for your stillness as you feel ready. As you feel ready, gently uncross the arms and the legs. Scoot everything back to midline. And then from here, any way you like, flip yourself onto the belly. from the belly, we'll set up for either Sphinx pose or seal pose. So for Sphinx pose, you can take the elbows roughly underneath the shoulders. The forearms can be parallel or together. If you want to use your bolster for support, you could bring it behind the elbows, and then that'll allow you to rest the chest down onto it. If you want to use it to come a little bit deeper, then you might take the bolster out in front, so then you can bring the forearms down onto that. And for seal pose, you could still use the bolster for support. For seal pose, you'll take the arms extended with the palms flat to the floor, and then you can see how far out in front you want them. You can bring them a little bit closer to be more upright, more intensity. And this pose, like a lot of them, tends to get more intense the longer you hold it. So I would find something that feels sustainable for now, knowing that it may get a little more intense, and you can always back out of it as well. The final option for either of these shapes will be to bend the knees and just see what that feels like for today. Before you come out, you might choose to stay a little while longer. But when you feel ready, you could start just the way you came in, extending the legs first. If you're in seal pose, maybe you're lowering the elbows. Either way, you can move your bolster out of the way as you're ready and start to lower the spine down towards the floor. And see what feels like a good counter pose for you, so you could pause right here. You could also slide the left knee up towards the left, and pausing here for about 5 or 6 breaths and then switching sides. If you have the left knee bent, you can re-extend it and then bend the right knee up towards the right. Re-extending the right leg as you're ready. And check in with the spine. You're welcome to stay here a little while longer. Otherwise, using the hands, pressing up to tabletop, and then we'll find child's pose. I'm going to offer child's pose with knees together. It's a little more supportive for the spine after the back bend. But listen to your body. If you want to use knees wide and then have the bolster under for extra support, then choose that. Maybe a soft block near the top for the forehead. And check in with your shape and see if there's anything that you can adjust to make it feel just a little more comfortable or a little more stable. And find which arm expression feels best for today. Maybe arms extended out in front or by the sides or something else. And only as you feel ready to move on from here, slowly start to walk the hands in towards the knees, and lifting yourself up to a kneeling shape, and then from here you can slide off to one side. See if the legs need a little shake out, maybe a tap for the knees or a windshield wiper for the feet. And then look around, we'll find all the props. We're going to set up for a wide-legged stance here, so you might choose to sit up off of your soft block and then have the strap and the bolster nearby because those will come in handy. Choosing any comfortable wide-legged position, so don't worry too much about where the legs are. And if you need to do one at a time as well, we're going to stretch over one leg and then we'll stretch over the other. So if you want to have the leg that you're not stretching over bent with the foot towards the pelvis, then that might make the shape more accessible. So feel free to do that as well. Awesome. And we're going to start with a side stretch here. So you might choose to have your bolster nearby. And then you might also choose to loop the left foot just so that the strap is there if you end up going for that bind. So for the side stretch, turn your chest towards the right, lining up the left side of the body with that left leg. And then you can start to walk the left arm down the left leg. You might end up somewhere like this, and this might feel like plenty. You could play with bending the elbow to catch the head here, focusing on the stretch for the right side, keeping that right hip nice and heavy. The other option from here is to reach the left arm up overhead and then see what that feels like. You could again bend the elbow, maybe catching the head here. The final option is using the strap to take that into the right hand, and then it'll take you a little deeper into the stretch. If you're doing this or any expression of the shape, just make sure that it's a pain-free expression. If it feels like you're pulling yourself deeper than where you can still breathe comfortably and be here comfortably, then maybe back out a little bit. Any combination of these shapes, and take your time to set yourself up, to settle yourself in. Eventually coming to stillness, maybe closing the eyes and breathing here.
If you have the strap, you can gently let it go. And maybe reaching that right arm towards the right, you can slowly start to bring yourself back up. And before we take that shape on the second side, we're going to set up for a twist and fold. So now turning your chest towards the direction of the left leg, and you can slowly start to walk the hands along the leg as you fold forward. And if for any reason twisting and folding at the same time doesn't work for you, you're welcome to take the twist and stay upright, or you could fold and center if that's better. And again, having the bolster nearby might make the shape helpful. So maybe you're resting the arms on it, maybe you prop it up and you rest the forehead on it, and play around with your shape. You can again use the strap here, but because we're rounding from the upper back, just make sure you're not pulling heavily. But if you want to use the strap to kind of keep you anchored in space, then go for it. If it feels okay to let the head and neck go, if that feels good in the body, then choose that. As you feel ready to come up, you can slowly start to walk your hands back in. And then coming upright, see what feels good here. Maybe a little counter twist. If you want, you can snake the spine or the shoulders a little bit. It might also feel nice to bring the legs back together, maybe give yourself a windshield wiper. Awesome. And then when you're ready, we'll set up for the second side. So choosing either one leg extended and one knee bent or your wide-legged expression. And if it was helpful on the first side, you might loop up the right foot just so that it's handy, and maybe have your bolster nearby as well. And then checking in, turning the chest a little more towards the left leg, lining up the right side with that right leg. And then you can start to arc your way over. You can use the right hand down to the floor, to your prop, and see how this feels. Keep the left side nice and heavy. And then the option to either reach the left arm over, maybe to catch the head, or you can find your strap. It's possible too that this side feels completely different to the first. So just take your time and find an expression that feels similar in the body, even if it ends up looking a little different. If you have the strap, you can gently let that go, and then reaching with the left arm, use that to help yourself gently come back up, and then see what feels good for the spine. Maybe take a few breaths here. And we'll set up for that twist and fold. And again, if for any reason combining those doesn't work, you could fall through center, or you can twist and stay upright. If you're coming with me for the fold, then you can start to walk the hands along the leg, gently starting to round over it. Again, if you're using the strap, that's okay, but because we're rounding, just make sure you're not pulling too hard, rather using it to keep you steady in space. If it feels okay to let the upper neck and the head go, and let the head hang heavy. Finding your pain-free expression. And if you do start to feel pinching or something else like that, then gently back your way out until you can no longer feel it. Delicately and with the support of the arms, and then start to bring yourself back up as you're ready. And give your spine a little movement side to side. Maybe a seated cat-cow or a stretch for the front body. And then give the feet a little wiggle. You can slowly start to bring them back together in center. Maybe a tap out for the knees, or maybe a windshield wiper. And then from here, as you feel ready, you can come back up. We're going to lower down onto the back. It might be helpful to have the bolster nearby, and the other props you can move out of the way. We're going to set up for a rest shape, but before we do that, I want to take one last counter stretch for the body. I'm going to talk through an active bridge pose, so the more yang style than the yin style. But if you'd rather take something more supportive, then once you lift the hips, you can slide your bolster underneath and stay in the more restorative version. If you're coming with me to the active version, then you might set up your elbows by the rib cage, fingertips towards the ceiling, and the feet roughly underneath the knees. And from here, as you're ready, press the feet down, lift the hips, and either slide your bolster underneath, or you can stay right here. You could also extend the arms, or perhaps walk the shoulder blades together so you can connect the hands underneath the pelvis. And keep the feet pressing down to the floor. Make sure you still have space to breathe. And stay here for a few deep breaths, and listen to your body. If you need to come out, then just exit the way you came in. If you're with me, gently release your bind if you have it, and then slowly start to lower the spine back down to the floor. If you were in the more passive shape, then you can stay a little while longer, and when you're ready, lifting the hips, moving your prop out of the way, but there's no rush. You may take the feet wide and the knees together and pause for a couple of breaths. And checking in to see if your body's asking for any last gentle stretch or movement. And when you're ready, you can set up for your Shavasana. I'm going to take the bolster underneath the knees, and you can use it differently as well. So I'm going to have the legs extended, but if you'd rather be in butterfly, you can do that. If you'd like to bring the bolster back under the spine, or if for any reason being on the back isn't working, then maybe a seated meditation. You take your time to get the body really comfortable here, adding in any extra props, layers, adjusting anything you need in your space. And eventually letting the body get nice and heavy here. Feel the support of the floor and your props. And settle in for your rest. And gently bring your attention back to the space. Find a little movement once again. Maybe move out through the hands and the feet. It might feel nice to stretch the arms up overhead and find a full body stretch here. And if you like, bring the knees into the chest and then separate the knees and reach between them and catch hold of the feet, the ankles, the shins. And you might choose happy baby here. Maybe pausing in stillness for a few breaths, or you could gently rock side to side. Mindful of the low back, and you can slide a prop underneath if you need more support there. You can stay in happy baby a little while longer, or bring the legs together. You might roll down to one side, or you can gently rock and roll your way up. And there's no rush to get there. Eventually, we'll come and meet in a comfortable, tall seat. And you can use any of your props for a little extra support. And once you find your seat, you can gently lengthen the spine. Gently soften the shoulders down and back. Let the hands rest wherever they've landed. And take a scan through the body and notice. Your hands can stay where they've landed, or you can bring the palms to touch in front of the heart. Maybe bow the chin in towards the chest. Thank you for sharing your practice and your energy today. Namaste. Thank you for joining me for this week's Yin practice. And my name is Nicholas. If you have any questions, please reach out and enjoy the rest of your day.